Today, Monday, February 7, 2022. Promoters of last night's illegal party in Westmoreland believed to be the target of the gun attack in which 7 people were shot. Judge in Wan Don gang trial to hear submissions from the prosecution on whether secret audio recordings can be admitted into evidence. Jamaican woman stabbed to death while walking to work in New York. The JPS contractor who was electrocuted on Wednesday in Kingston has died. Investigators believe the promoters of last night's illegal party in Sheffield, Westmoreland, were the target of the attack by gunmen who shot 7 people. The 2 promoters of the event were killed. They've been identified as 32-year-old Marshall Gale and his common-law wife, Sharice Murray, both of Little Bay in Westmoreland. The 5 injured persons remain hospitalized. Marshall Gale's brother, Delroy Gale, says the gunmen were at the location for some time before carrying out the attack.
The men come here and met him from the early tales I heard, only to go away and come back. I must purchase a Magnum and 2 cigarettes. After they go and come back, they are coming well, fully attacked with their weapon, and they cry no quarter. Enter the bar, hit his girlfriend, just hit her and grab that bag from the party, that money bag, one whole of that, and one is scaring everybody by shot somebody else shot him cheap. Meanwhile, other one has to get them scared in around to get them evacuated. You have other people who pick up other sheriff shot differently from those head and belly wound from the 2 convicts directly to the party. So it's just a whole thing like that to where I see, because I'm in the back of the kitchen only to view what's going on the front.
Delroy Gale, the brother of Marshall Gale, who was fatally shot at last night's illegal party in Sheffield, Westmoreland. And a member of Parliament for Westmoreland Wilson says last night's shooting might have been carried out by migrant criminals. He says the community of Sheffield has been rocked by the incident.
When Sablamar was held under control by the police, you will find that these criminal elements would migrate into other communities. So this is a community you don't generally hear about at all. It's a quite quiet community with hard-working, decent Jamaicans who just want to live their lives. And you'll find that these elements now will migrate into communities such as this, because these persons, they're not armed. This is not a cosmopolitan area where you have a lot of security and stuff like that. These are just churchgoers who generally try to have their event and run their bars to make a living. And you'll find that these criminal elements will see that they are soft targets and enter into these communities.
Member of Parliament for Westmoreland Wilson. Chief Justice Brian Sykes is to hear submissions from the prosecution on whether secret audio recordings meet the requirements of the Evidence Amendment Act and can be admitted into evidence in the Wan Don gang trial. Section 31G of the Act states that before computer-generated recordings can be admitted into evidence, the prosecution must establish that the computer was in good working condition when the recordings were being generated. The Chief Justice today instructed the prosecution to review the section. Justice Sykes' instruction followed the testimony of a cybercrime response expert who said he was unable to confirm whether the software used to record the conversation was malfunctioning at the time. Earlier in the trial, the prosecution's second witness testified that he downloaded an application on 3 cellular phones which he used to record alleged gang members. A Jamaican woman was stabbed to death yesterday while walking to work in Brooklyn, New York. Her family members say she was attacked by a man who was stalking her. The police have not made an arrest. Prince Moore has details.
Police said the Jamaican, who has been identified as 50-year-old Dorothy Clark Rosier, was cutting through a parking lot in East Flatbush about 5:50 a.m. to get to her job at a nearby store when she was attacked. Mrs. Clark Rosier managed to reach her workplace but collapsed on the pavement. Medics rushed her to Kings County Hospital where she died. Her sister told the New York Daily News that Mrs. Clark Rosier struck a friendship with a man a few months ago, but the relationship turned volatile and controlling. She recounted that the man began showing up at Mrs. Clark Rosier's workplace unannounced and sent her aggressive text messages. Though Mrs. Clark Rosier did not contact the police, her family believes the man had something to do with her death. Prince Moore, Radio Jamaica News.
The Jamaica Public Service Company JPS contractor who was electrocuted on Wednesday while carrying out work on a utility pole in Trenchtown in St. Andrew has died. The contractor, who has been identified as Ainsley Scott, died this morning in the Kingston Public Hospital. A statement from the JPS says Mr. Scott was employed to M&O Traders, emergency contractors who provide services to the utility company. JPS says it continues to work along with M&O Traders to gather details on the mishap. Radio Jamaica News received a video of the incident. Mr. Scott was seen dangling from a light post as persons tried to rescue him. A police military team has arrested 8 men following a targeted raid on a liquor counterfeiting operation. The raid was carried out on Old Harbour Road in St. Catherine between 5 o'clock and 8:30 this morning. A release from the Jamaica Constabulary Forces communication arm says police and soldiers entered a property where they uncovered an illegal bottling operation with counterfeit liquor. The team allegedly discovered hundreds of bottles labeled with popular liquor brands, a bottling machine, and several cases of raw material. 8 men were found at the premises and taken into custody. The team also seized $280,000 in cash. The police are urging Jamaicans to take precautions and examine the labels of packages when making purchases. The health minister has received a donation of 649,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine from France. The donation, which arrived today, was facilitated through COVAX. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the government is grateful for the donation as it continues to combat COVID-19. Now, Jamaica's COVID-19 death toll is close to 2,700. A 34-year-old woman from St. Elizabeth was among 4 more fatalities reported by the ministry today. The other deaths occurred in St. Thomas and Kingston. 2,698 people have now died from the virus. There were 229 new COVID cases confirmed yesterday from 2,427 samples. The positivity rate is 24.9%. President of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, Ian Nita, says the current system of the government setting the national minimum wage is not working. Mr. Nita says employees continue to be placed at a disadvantage, especially where employers can pay more than the set rate. He believes the responsibility of setting a minimum wage rate should be removed from the government. Mr. Nita has suggested a free market system that allows employers to set their rates, which would generate competition.
When you have a blanket minimum wage, an employer in an industry that can pay more, what if they say, you know what, I'm just going to pay the minimum wage because I can get away with it? And their competition then says, you know what, I'll just pay minimum too. Yeah. So the worker don't have a chance to migrate from their company to the neighboring company to get a better wage because both of them are saying, I'm just going to pay a minimum wage. But if they allow the competition, if they allow the free market to say, you know what, if I underpay my worker, they're going to go next door to my competition. Then you would wake up and say, you know, I can pay more. I want to retain my staff. I will pay more.
However, he has accepted that this could still end with the employee losing if there is no benchmark. Mr. Nita says there should be a formula that takes into account all factors that are used to determine the minimum wage rate.
The Jamaica Chamber of Commerce is willing to work with the government, work with industry, unions to have a much more intelligent formula that looks at the welfare, looks at the risks to the companies and improve the communication so that your employees have a better understanding of your business and why you pay what you pay.
President of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, Ian Nita. Mr. Nita was a guest today on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program. Jamaica's national minimum wage has been at $7,000 per week since 2018. The National Minimum Wage Commission is due to start another round of consultations this month. In the meantime, Mr. Nita says instead of focusing on a set minimum wage, the government should relieve some of the daily pressures which drive up the cost of living.
The cost of transportation could be adjusted if fuel didn't have so much taxes on it. For example, that's just one example. The cost of crime. If we start to focus on reducing crime, the cost of living goes down. I mean, the government also has at its disposal the threshold for the tax threshold for income tax. You have a lot of other tools that you can work with. So all I want to do is to really sort of broaden the discussion beyond just, focusing on minimum wage as the way to make people's lives better. There are many other things that we can do.
President of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, Ian Nita. In Haiti, Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry is to address the nation tonight as the French-speaking country braces for uncertainty with schools and businesses closed and police patrolling the streets. An official statement said Dr. Henry will address the nation at 8 o'clock local time. The Speaker of the Senate, Senator Joseph Lambert, is also due to address Haiti today. Haiti has been plunged into political, social, and economic uncertainty with armed gangs engaged in various acts of kidnapping for ransom. In the past few months, Haitians have also taken to the streets to demand fresh elections. The Prime Minister has promised to create a provisional electoral council soon to pave the way for elections, but he says will occur by the end of this year as his administration tries to improve security conditions. Belize has become the second CARICOM country to express concern at the possibility of a full-scale war in Ukraine as Russia continues to amass troops on the borders of the European country. Belize Prime Minister, who is the current chairman of the 15-member regional integration grouping, said it is extremely concerned about the evolving security situation on Ukraine's eastern border, which poses a threat to international peace and security. Belize is urging all relevant parties to exercise restraint and intensify diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the current tensions. World leaders are stepping up efforts to reduce tensions over Ukraine as fears of a Russian invasion grow. The French President Emmanuel Macron expressed hope that war could be avoided as he met with Russian leader Vladimir Putin in Moscow. In Washington, the U.S. President Joe Biden hosted German Chancellor and said they were uniting in addressing Russia's aggression. Truckers in Ottawa have been ordered to stop honking their horns in an ongoing protest that has snarled up in the city. The loud and constant blare of truck horns has become one of the defining features of the movement against Canada's vaccine mandates. But a judge has now ruled that they can be silenced for the next 10 days. The presence of hundreds of trucks and their noisy honking had prompted anger among local people and business owners. The Freedom Convoy protest has spread to several cities and was formed against rules that truckers must be vaccinated to cross the U.S. border.